The battlefield was a storm of chaos and fire. Smoke curled into the violet sky, and the acrid scent of scorched metal and alien flora filled the air. Captain Elias Thorne, a human veteran of countless interstellar conflicts, stood at the front of the line, facing an ambush unlike any he had seen. His mission had been simple: protect the alien child, Serena, the last surviving heir of the Xylarian clan. But simplicity was a lie. The enemy had pinned them down in a canyon lined with jagged obsidian spires. From above, bowmen rained poisoned arrows in waves, each tipped with a neurotoxin designed to paralyze before death. Elias didn't hesitate. He shielded Serena with his body, taking arrow after arrow as he barked orders to the retreating Xylarian guards. "Move her, now," he shouted, dragging the child behind a crumbled spire as the arrows thudded into his armor. Pain seared through him, a sharp burning that spread with every hit, yet he pressed on, shielding her as best as he could. Serena's wide, violet eyes never left him. Despite her fear, she clutched his arm with tiny hands. "Eli, don't leave me," she whispered. "I won't," he said, voice rough but steady. "Not for a moment. Not ever." Minutes, or maybe hours, passed in a blur of motion and agony. Elias collapsed multiple times, but each time he dragged himself back to Serena, blocking arrows, taking blows, and ensuring the child survived. Every strike he absorbed burned his muscles, poisoned his bloodstream, and clouded his vision, but the thought of letting her fall drove him beyond pain, beyond fear. By the time the ambush ended, Elias was a heap of scars and poisoned flesh. Serena was safe, hidden in the protective barrier of surviving Xylarian warriors. Elias slumped against a jagged rock, shivering, blood mingling with the dust beneath him. "I'm fine," he muttered weakly, though he knew it was a lie. "She's fine. That's what matters." Then darkness claimed him. 50 years later, the world had changed. The Xylarian clan had rebuilt, transforming the fractured planet into a thriving hub of culture, science, and interstellar influence. Elias Thorne, however, had been preserved against the odds, recovered by Xylarian medical technology, and placed in a stasis chamber to counteract the poisoned arrow's long-term effects. When he awoke, the first sensation was the hum of advanced machinery and the softness of air designed to mimic a planet far from the battlefield. His body ached, not with poison, but with decades of suspended time. He sat up slowly, memories flooding back. The ambush, the child, the arrows, the pain. And then he saw her. Serena stood before him, taller, regal, her violet eyes luminous with a wisdom born of decades of leadership. Her hair, once a pale shimmer, now flowed like liquid amethyst, adorned with ceremonial insignia of her reign. The Xylarian guards behind her bowed deeply. "Elias Thorne," she said, her voice steady, filled with reverence. "You have awakened." Elias's mouth went dry. His knees threatened to buckle under the weight of time and memory. "Serena, you're how?" "I am queen," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "Because of you." He struggled to comprehend. 50 years, he had thought himself forgotten, a relic of war. And yet, the child he had risked everything to protect now ruled an entire planet, an empire even. Serena approached, kneeling before him, a gesture of honor, respect, and eternal gratitude. "You gave your life to protect me, and yet you survived. I owe my reign, my people, and my life to your courage." Elias shook his head, overwhelmed. It was my duty. Anyone would have." "Not anyone," she interrupted firmly. "Not anyone would have taken every poisoned arrow, borne every pain, and ensured a child survived over themselves. That is why you are here, Elias. That is why you live. You are our guardian, our savior, and the heart of Xylarian resilience. Tears pricked his eyes. For a human to be recognized in such a galaxy by an alien, no less, was beyond honor. It was validation of every sacrifice, every scar, every aching moment of pain he had endured. The years following his awakening were a lesson in humility, adaptation, and wonder. Elias, though aged, trained his body under Xylarian guidance, regaining mobility and strength beyond what humans of his age could manage. He became an advisor to the Queen, a mentor to her generals, and a symbol to the people, a living testament to courage, loyalty, and selflessness. Serena ruled with fairness, wisdom, and strength, her policies inspired by the values Elias had exemplified: courage in the face of danger, sacrifice for others, and honor above all. Together, they navigated political intrigue, interstellar threats, and cultural revolutions that reshaped the Xylarian Empire. There were moments of quiet reflection. Elias would walk the palace gardens, recalling the battlefield, the arrows, the fear, and the child's wide eyes. And there she would be, Serena, now fully grown, the queen, approaching him with a simple gesture, kneeling, bowing her head, acknowledging the debt that could never be repaid. "You saved me once," she said softly during one such moment, "and every day since, I strive to honor that sacrifice." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and warm. "You've made a world worth saving. That's all I ever wanted." The legacy of that single act of bravery, enduring poisoned arrows for a helpless child, rippled across the stars. Tales of Elias Thorne spread to distant systems, inspiring humans and aliens alike. Children of multiple species learned of the man who risked everything for another, proving that courage and compassion could outshine technology, strategy, or brute force. Serena's reign continued for decades, her policies shaped by the principles instilled in her by the human who had once shielded her from death. And through it all, Elias remained by her side, protector, mentor, friend, and a living monument to the power of sacrifice. When he finally passed, it was with the knowledge that the child he had saved had become a queen who would guide her people with wisdom and justice. The Xylarian people commemorated him not as a warrior who fell, but as a hero whose choices reshaped the destiny of a civilization. And every year, on the anniversary of the ambush, Serena would kneel before his statue in the palace courtyard, a silent promise that his courage, his sacrifice, and his humanity would never be forgotten. Because in that moment, 50 years ago, he had taken poisoned arrows for a child, and the galaxy had never been the same.